Hello to the chicos and the chicas, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to revisit the the eternal question of how do I get better at visualization? How do I improve calculation? This seems to be the most frequently proposed question to me as a coach, to me as a streamer, as a YouTuber, and in general, I think the adult improver community likes to come up with this question the largest number of times. And before I get into the nitty-gritty, I would like to provide an analogy here, which is my favorite theory about this matter, because my concept about this is that it's very crystal clear. It's a really simple matter. It is almost identical in terms of its nature to long distance running. Imagine someone who picks up long distance running as a hobby and their goal is to run a marathon. And after having run and trained for like 2 weeks, they approach the coach and they go like, so how will I run a marathon? And the coach goes like, well, by you running an awful lot every single day for the next 2 years, or depending on your fitness level, however long. And the idea is that you will run a lot, and then every now and then at, measured intervals, we are going to add a little bit more to what you already can do. So you will start out on 5 kilometers, then we add a little bit more. Then that little bit more becomes your new standard performance. So we add a little bit more, and we keep on doing this until you get to the end. Woo, that's a lot of work, isn't it? Yes. That doesn't sound like, necessarily a lot of fun. Well, it is if you like calculating and if you like engaging with chess or with running. But in the end of the day, if you pick up running, one would assume you like running. If you pick up chess, one would assume you like working on chess. But the bad news is, guys, there is no magical potion here that is going to fix your visualization. There is no ultimate course, book, or whatever you want to call it, technique. It is plain and simple. It's hard working, and you have to be very, very consistent, and you constantly need to do this. And that's it. There is no philosopher's stone, there is no elixir that is going to fix it for you, and there is no point in you dumping one book and finding another, dumping one coach, find a new one, dumping this method, replacing it with another. No, doesn't matter. You need to work on it. And most people, by the way, who are not good at calculation and visualization, they tend to avoid doing it both in games and training, because they know that they are bad at it and they don't like doing it. And it really sucks, because I'm telling you, and especially to those people who recognize themselves in that statement, and there is no shame in that, is that there is absolutely zero chance that you can get better at it unless you force yourself out of your comfort zone and you push yourself into doing what appears to be nearly impossible. Now, let me show you a practical example, because I still would like to offer you really tangible, meaningful advice other than the, sorry, you have to work your backside off, although that is the crux of the meta, but still. And before I get into this, one more thing. Visualization, calculation, there is a giant overlap here. I would say about 70%. So you can call it whatever you want, but you can't be good at one without being really good at the other. The other day I had this position in a coaching session with a student of mine. It happens to be a game of mine, and I found a few interesting lines while I was playing it, and I thought that this would make excellent coaching material. So I brought the position up to student, and I went like, all right, what I want you to do, and by the way, we are talking about a student who doesn't need to work on calculating more deeply, more accurately, more everything, the usual. And so I said to him the following: I would like you to calculate and evaluate the consequences of c5. And that is exactly what I want you to do if you would like to play along, as a little bit of a test to see where you would place in this hierarchy or on this ladder of calculating / visualization skills. So that's all I gave him. I asked him to have a look at c5. Calculate, evaluate. I'm not saying black to move and win. I'm not saying black to move and survive. Nothing. No guidance whatsoever. We don't know the evaluation of the position unless we do it for ourselves. And I just went like, it's yours. Come back to me with lines and evaluations, and I would like you to do it too. So this is the time to pause the video and shine like a star. If you happen to... no, I actually want one more thing I want to add to this is just to make sure that you calculate both things. I want you to engage with both bishop takes c5 and a takes b4 as your main variations. So if you have done the work in the meantime, or rather in between those two sentences, then those were the two moves that needed very thorough calculation. So I'm going to show you now what roughly I would expect as an exciting and engaging answer. So as luck would have it, my student here started engaging with bishop takes c5, which is the not good move, but it's a really, really tempting one, and one that you would really, really be keen to investigate because the king is in the middle. It feels very tempting to blow up the position. So the lines that I would really expect you to find, calculate, and evaluate correctly are the following. Bishop takes c5, pawn takes c5, queen b2. This is the main idea, hitting the rook and bringing the knight into e4 for a mate threat on f2. Now, there is 3 moves here. Queen d1, rook d1, and one more that I'm not revealing yet. Rook d1 loses instantly to knight e4. And surprisingly, the mate on f2 is very, very difficult to defend. If bishop e2, then knight c3 is a marvelous motive. Hitting a mate, hitting queen, hitting rook, everything is hanging. White is dead. And that's it. You can call it off here. If you saw knight d2, rook d2, queen d2, knight a4, it's fine. Knight a4 wins as well. Doesn't matter. It's game over. A slightly more difficult thing to see, and this motive I think will come back one more time, is when we play bishop g3 here to defend the mate, at which point the winning line for black goes with queen c3 check, king e2, and rook b8. Now, when this line is being calculated, and remember that you don't get to see any of this, you are looking at this position when you are calculating what I just showed you there with rook b8. But I wanted to make a point there, which is why I went all the way back here. And that point was that a lot of people overlook that this is hanging. And that's unacceptable because it's an intentional sacrifice. And capture, of course, allows a rapid mate with queen b2, queen f2, but that's beside the point. One needs to see that that's hanging. So yeah, rook b8 is the move with the idea of a rook b2 penetration. And once again, you can call this off here with irresistible attack for black, and black does win. Now, likewise against queen d1, the idea is identical, knight c3, and here, once again, knight c3 is the real nasty, which attacks the queen, which now cannot move away without giving up the guarding of either the rook or the bishop. Obviously, it has to stick to the bishop in order to cover the mate. Or, here comes the trickery, you were supposed to find this move, because part of the deal is that you want to find the best moves for white as well as for black, because the point is not to prove our move correct. Our point is to find the truth, because then we can make a sound decision based on that. So bishop e5, but this loses too after knight takes d1, bishop takes, knight takes b2. At this point, I would like to stress that you need to clearly visualize that the knight can escape from b2 one way or another, and with the extra pawn, black is clearly winning again. Yep, that's this variation, nothing more to add. And then comes the very, very shocking truth, and I left it for last on purpose. And usually people either completely overlook it or they instantly just say it, and then the bishop takes c5 variation becomes a moot point. But bishop takes c5 once again loses on the spot, because after b takes c5, queen b2, white has the extremely annoying queen d4, a marvelous defensive measure which eliminates the threat against a1 whilst gaining a tempo on the black queen. Black resigns, like literally game over. And so, despite the fact that we found some really, really cool variations in this queen b2 line, we have to completely abandon it because it just doesn't work. Now, if you saw queen d4 first up, then you didn't need to calculate the other variations. So in that regard, I suppose that this exercise can go in multiple ways depending on which lines you discover first. But I think it's quite satisfying if you are fortunate enough to discover first those beautiful winning ones, although then it stings all the more to find out that, oh, hang on, queen d4. And that's it. So it turns out that c5 is not refuted by bishop takes c5 at all. In fact, bishop takes c5 loses for black, and so a takes b4 is the next move you look at. This is the one that I calculated first, by the way, in the game, and I would have gone for it too, because I saw here that the cheeky queen takes a8 gets refuted by queen takes c5. This is a typical case where a lot of club level players would stop here, thinking that, this is the classic desperado. They gave up the queen for the rook, and when I take back, they take my queen, and then I'm a rook down. I can't do this. Not thinking that at this point, after queen takes a8, no one says that we are playing checkers and retake on the queen is compulsory. This is awkward for white. You should never assume here anything, because if we play a move that removes our queen from harm's way, then all of a sudden we find that this queen is hanging and this check is incoming. And this is just a complete carnage city. It's game over. Queen f8, bishop f8 is perhaps best, but yeah, white just doesn't have time to consolidate, and the queen is going to feast on the loose white pieces. This is game over. And last but not least, of course, queen takes b4 loses to queen b4, and the pin is on. So best is probably for white to take on b6, and after rook takes a4, white is going to lose at least one, but more than likely 2 pawns somewhere down the track. One more thing that needs to be seen here clearly is that the annoying looking b7 is well met by knight d7, and there is no dramas to report on as far as the parser on the b file is concerned. So that's it. This is it. That's the game in a nutshell. Actually, I will show you how the game went, because there is another cute calculating exercise in there, which is reasonably neat. My opponent played b5. I played knight e4, of course, bringing the knight to the center. Bishop is coming to f6. Knight is coming into c3. I keep on adding more and more pressure, and the opponent keeps on facing more and more difficulties. And indeed, they immediately blundered with bishop d3. And here is another very clean and easy calculating exercise. Black to move and win. Pause the video if you would like to figure this out. You may have felt, or you might feel a little bit misled after I show you the line when I called it a win, but there is nothing better here for black than knight c5, queen c2, take. And the reason why I was attracted to this line was not necessarily the pawn. That is only the smaller part of the equation. The main attraction to me in this one was the fact that no matter where the queen went, and from memory it went back to c2, I had a follow-up move. Oh no, I think it went to a2. I have a follow-up move of b4, which is going to mean that they can't take me, because then check and the king gets stuck in the middle, so they castled. And then I got to play b3 and then a4, and at this point they just gave up. They went like, yeah, nah, I'm not interested in the rest. And that's fair enough. This pawn is an absolute monster. I'm going to penetrate on the c file and convert to an easy win. Now, many would have probably tried to win here with bishop f6, when apparently c takes d5 is quite a cute saving attempt, hoping to sell this little trickery. Oopsie daisy, and white is winning. It's never too late to slip up. Of course, we can take back on d5, and then I guess rook c1. And if you evaluated this after knight c3 to be better for black, I suppose it's slightly, not slightly, but it's acceptable. But this variation is quite messy. h7 is hanging, b5 is still not captured. It doesn't strike me as a convincing line. It's a bit too murky. The other variation with knight c5 was clean as a whistle. We just mow down everything with tempo, and then comes b4, and that's it. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. So, in conclusion, if you would like to get better at calculation and visualization, which is essentially the same thing, you need to do it a lot. And I like to say that, in my opinion, every chess position, which is not the starting position, but with some exaggeration, every chess position is a calculating exercise. I can't open up a book, I just grab the first one on my desk, look at a position, and not turn it into a calculating exercise by simply posing myself the question of, what would I do here if I was decide to move? And away I go. And I'm already engaging with calculation. Obviously, it is made a lot better if you have got designated material for this. Puzzle books are the most obvious, and I'm not going to start getting into books now because everyone knows that there are 7,000 books out there that offer puzzles, calculating exercises, studies, you name it, chess courses likewise. The only step up is, in my opinion, potentially a coach who can find positions like this one that I just showed you, where there are many interesting lines and lots of tactical subtleties that are very, very much to the taste of one who would like to practice calculating. So yeah, a coach can be handy to spoon feed some of these very, very cool positions, but it is by no means necessary. You can totally do it on your own. The bad news is that there is no shortcut. There is no, easy way to just, there is no ultimate recipe that, oh, you just need to do this and you will be fine. The classical YouTube titles of, oh, you just need this one opening and you just need this one skill and this, nah, forget about it. The one thing that you need to do is hard work. That's the only way it works. Bad news, but that's why chess is beautiful, because nothing comes easy. So yeah, once again, the conclusion is, guys, you need to calculate. You need to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and you must accept that it's not gonna come easy, because some of these lines I showed you were ridiculously tough. To foresee, to calculate, to come up with those moves, it's tough grind. Not easy at all, but that's precisely the point. So I would like to encourage you to stop looking for that shortcut, that ultimate tool, that ultimate piece of advice, the way that technique. They don't exist. It's just you and doing the very thing that you are not good at now, but you will get better at it with time and practice. So I wish you the best of luck with that, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Please don't forget to sub, to like, to thank me, and to comment, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.